Okay, so looking at the sign-in screen again, and I'm just gonna click on that register button again to show you all what you would need to do. It's just gonna ask us a few questions, email address, password, and some user info, firm info. But once we've entered all that, we can agree to the terms and click register. What that's gonna do is it's gonna set up an account, send you an email to the email address that you register with, and you'll be able to click on that link and activate your account and come right back to the sign-in page and sign into your account. So again, if you've already registered, don't worry about that step, but if you haven't, feel free to do so. When we come to the sign in, we'll use the same email and generic password to get logged in, or if you're already registered, you'll use the same credentials. When we get logged in, for new users, it's going to prompt us to add a payment account and an attorney if needed. And so we'll walk through those steps really briefly, but if you're already registered, you can kind of just tune this part out. But we'll come over here to the firm management and we'll go to payment accounts. So just like with like an Amazon account or any other account that you've registered for online, you're going to need a payment account to pay once we get through the portion of filing. At the very end, we obviously have to pay for that. So we'll set up this payment account in preparation for that. You can see that I have a few different payment accounts within my firm. But to add a payment account over here on the right-hand side, we'll just click the Add Account button. And from here, we'll name the account, and you can name it anything that you like. Just whatever you put, that's what you'll actually see. So we can put MasterCard, Visa, whatever the case might be, and then select our payment account type. From there, we'll enter the information for that payment account in this screen here. And we won't walk through these steps, but this would just be like setting up any other card. Once we've added that, it'll show up in our list. And anyone that has access to this firm or is in this firm as a registered user will have access to these payment accounts. For the attorneys, we'll do essentially the same thing. We'll click on the Add button up here in the top right-hand corner. The only thing is difference is that we'll only be required to enter first and last name and an attorney bar number. Once we've added that info and click Save, it'll show up on our list. And just like with the payment accounts, anyone within this firm or is a registered user here within our firm will have access to these attorneys. Coming back to our main screen, we're going to immediately jump into filing an initial envelope, and we'll circle back and walk through these different boxes that we have on the screen and the tabs that we have on the left-hand side. So to get started, we click Start Filing, and as you can see, we have two options. We can file a new case, or we can file into an existing case. And then within each of those boxes, we can either bulk file or individually file. For this example, we're just going to click Start a New Case to initiate a new individual envelope. This is going to take us to the new case filing, and up at the top of the screen, you can see the workflow from left to right. And then in the center, we've got some required sections that we have to fill out. So first, our court location, and I'm just going to do civil actions for today's example. Whatever we choose is going to determine what shows up in the next box. So for civil actions, our only case category option is civil actions. And then in the case types dropdown, we'll choose what type of case we want to initiate. And just to show you a few examples of what you might see in the case types, I'm going to scroll up and down. Once you've chosen one, in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the parties button light up as blue, and we'll click on that. We can see our workflow goes from 1 to 2. On the parties page, we're going to have required parties of plaintiff and defendant for this case type. So depending on the case type you choose, that'll determine what we see here. We'll click on the Add Party Details, and this will pull up the party information section. From here, we can see that the only required sections are first and last name. And at the bottom, we can add additional contact info, but again, not required. When we click Save, we can come back and do the exact same thing for the defendant. We'll click Save again. And if you notice, we have the ability to add additional parties. And so if I click on this button, it'll show me the same thing, but I'll actually be choosing which party type to add. And once we're done with that, we'll click on the Filings button. And here on the Filings page, this is where we're going to actually add and select the specific types of filings we want to add to this envelope. So right here in the center, we'll click Add Filing. And we can immediately notice that the filing code dropdown is required. And in this dropdown, just to show you a few examples of what you might see, we're going to see a list view of filing codes that are configured for this case category and type for this court. We'll see the description, and then if there are any fees associated with this filing, the fee amount right beside it. Once we've selected that, we'll have to choose a filing on behalf of, and then upload a document. So the lead document is the only one that's required. So you'll have to have whatever document you're trying to upload saved on your computer as a PDF. Once we uploaded that, we can click the Save button. And in the instance we needed to add multiple filings, all we have to do is click the Add More, and we'll go through the same steps that we did for the first one. And there are no limits on how many filing codes we can add in a specific envelope. Those would just be listed out here. So we'll click on the Service button. From here, we can add service contacts to this envelope, and that will eventually be on the case. We can associate those service contacts with specific parties, and then when we're adding those, we can add those. We can add ourselves. We can add those from our firm list, public list, or we can add an entirely new contact. For most instances, you can look at the public list, and it will show us which party you want to associate it with, and then you can search using first, last email address, or firm name. So this is going to look at that public list and allow us to find those users that we need to associate with maybe the opposing party or that might be tied to the court. We could add those in other service contacts. For this example, I'm not going to add any. Once on the fees page, we can add a payment account, and this is exactly where we would see that payment account that we added when we first got logged in. So any accounts that we have will show up on this list. We'll select our party responsible for fees, the filing attorney. We can click Calculate Fees to show us a full breakdown of the fees that we have. And this is going to show us the fees that are associated with the filing code, $60, our service fee at $5, and the convenience fee at $4, and then a total at the bottom. We'll click Summary. This will take us to the summary page, and this is going to give us a view of everything that we selected during the filing process with the ability to also edit that information. So at the very top, we have a submission agreements. Once we check that box, we can then scroll down and continue to see the info we selected. Over to the right is the edit button, which would just take us back to the specific page we clicked it on. Once we're comfortable, we'll click the submit button. And what this is going to do is it's going to start submitting this envelope over to the court's review queue, and it will assign it a envelope number, and it will also put a hold on your bank account for $69. So whatever card you used, it'll put a hold on that account for $69. You won't be charged until the court accepts that filing, and then if they rejected it or returned it to you for corrections, it won't charge that money. So we can see that envelope number is assigned here. The envelope number is important because it's a unique ID for every single submission. So think of it as sort of a receipt number. So you can have a case number, but multiple envelopes can be filed into a single case. So it's very helpful when you use that envelope number to look for specific submissions because it will only be assigned to one. Coming back to the dashboard, I'm also going to show everyone the process of looking up a case for a subsequent filing. So we'll click on that Start Filing again. And this time we're going to look at file into an existing case. So we'll click file into existing case. And the difference between a new and an existing case is for the existing, we're going to have to actually look this up. So we'll select the location that we know the case lives in. We'll type in the case number and then click search. And what this is doing is it's communicating with the court's CMS system, and it's pulling back that case and that case number. And I apologize, that case number's not pulling back, but it pulls that case number back for us and will show us exactly what we're looking for. And from there, we can file into it. And the process for that isn't any different than a new case. It allows us to initiate filing codes, service contacts, but the case category and type will already be determined. So nothing different than what you saw with the initial filing. The only difference is that we look for that case. We can also look by party name using first and last name and then case type. And the last thing as far as filing goes, I want to show is the bulk filing into cases. So we have bulk filing for both new and existing cases, but where you're going to see the most benefit is for filing into existing cases. You can do the bulk filing for new, but the difference is that for each individual case, as far as bulk filing goes, you'll have to enter all the details. For filing into existing cases, it allows us to look those cases up and we can immediately just add them. So we'll look at that right now. So the first thing we'll do is select a location that we want to bulk file into. We'll name the bulk filing itself. From here, we have three options. We can bookmark search, filing history search, or case search. So if I go to bookmark search, this allows me to look at all the cases I have bookmarked in my account, and I can easily add them to the bulk filing by just checking the box and click proceed. Click add bulk. And then done. And we'll see that pop up on our list here. We can also add cases by clicking on case search. We'll select that location, add the case number, and click search. And it'll pull that case up. And just like we saw with the bookmarks, we just check the box, click proceed. It'll load after we click add to bulk. And then click done. And so we can see both of those cases added to our bulk filing. The last option would be to look at our filing history. And this just allows us to look at the filing history that we have and choose from cases that live there. So we have this case. I can check that box, click proceed, add to bulk. And done. And the real benefit of this is it allows us to file the same type of filing code and document into multiple cases all at once. So it's just making the process of filing something very similar across the board into multiple cases really efficient and easy. So all we have to do from here is click our bulk filings. It's then going to give us the steps of selecting which ones we want to use. We can easily do that by checking the box here, or you can individually select them. And from there, we'll select our location, category, and type. Click add filings. From here, we'll add the filing. We'll do eFile only for this example. I'm going to select an affidavit. We'll upload the document to associate with that affidavit. And just like we saw with the initial filings, it'll upload that. We can click save. It'll show up in our list. We have the option to add more, but once we're ready, we'll click save filings. The last thing we'll need to do is associate the parties with each filing. So we'll click Associate Parties, check the box beside the filing, and then check the box beside the party that this filing is going to be associated with. Once we've completed that step, we click Done. We can come over here to our fees. We can associate a payment account with all of these by clicking Apply All, and then an attorney, and then we'll select party responsible for fees for each one. From there, we can calculate our fees and click the summary button and submit. So very simple, very straightforward as far as how to put these together, and allows you to just really efficiently file the same type of filing codes into multiple cases. Coming back to our dashboard, next thing we'll look at is the filing history and these different boxes here. So the filing history, if I click on View Filing History, it's going to show me a full view of all the filings, including envelopes and cases that I filed into and or that my firm has filed into. So we'll see those listed here on the screen, and they're organized in rows and columns that include filing status, the filing code, type, description, and a client reference number if there is one. And over here to the right hand side, we have an actions button. And if we select that, it allows us to jump to envelope details, file into the case with a template, view service context, bookmark case, or copy the envelope. And if you notice, some of these are highlighted versus some that are not. So that just indicates which options we have with this specific envelope and the status that it's in. So because this one's under review, we only have the options to look at the details and view the service context. If we come down here to a case, an envelope that's already been accepted, we have the option to look at the details, file into it, file with the template, view service, and bookmark case. The copy envelope is for envelopes that have been sent back for correction. So if we had an envelope that was rejected or returned, we could click the copy envelope. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to copy the envelope that was returned, and that brings over all the information selections that we made. We can easily make the update that's needed. That's the feedback that we've gotten back from the court about what needs to be changed. We'll change that and resubmit. So just a really easy way to copy that envelope and allow us to get it returned back to the court for review. We also have drafts, history, and bulk drafts, but over here on our filter sections, this is how we can change from myself to my firm. We can look at locations, statuses, envelope numbers, case and envelope numbers, and then date ranges. So that just allows us to filter down in our history to something specific. Looking at our drafts, this is going to show us any envelopes that we've started but haven't finished. So say we started that filing of a new case or subsequent case, and we had to step away for something, we can always come back and pick up right where we left off by looking at our drafts, and that's going to be organized in the same way. We have the same thing for bulk history and bulk drafts. So we can see all those drafts that I've been working on. Here we have the ability to edit or delete. From our home screen, we can see the drafts button is right here to the right of it. That'll take us right back to where we just were. We have our case search. If I click on search cases, this allows us to jump right into the case search. We'll choose our location, enter the case number, and click search. It'll pull this case up for us, including location, category, and type, the parties that are both associated, and then in our actions, we have file into case with template, view service contacts, or bookmark the case. So it looks very similar to the file into existing case or subsequent cases screen, but it's just a little bit different. To the right of that is the bookmarks. From here, we'll see all the cases that we've bookmarked. So it's kind of like think of it like your library at the house. You can grab that book from the library and keep it at your own personal house, and you can always access that information. We'll see the same options here with the additional remove bookmark. And then lastly, our view templates. So in the templates, we have the ability to set up types of filings that we can use over and over again. So if there's a specific type of filing, case, category, and everything that you do very often, you can come in here and set up a template for that and easily just go in and file those filings whenever you need to really efficiently. But we just click add template and allows us to name it, determine if it's a new or an existing case, and then once we've done that, we'll start the filing process to set up the actual template. Additionally, we have our firm management, and we looked at the payment accounts and attorneys when we first got logged in, but also want to show the firm users and firm details. So on the firm users screen, this is where we'll see all the users that are set up within our firm. So if you're ever curious about who's in your firm and if someone needs to be added and hasn't been, you can always come to this list and you'll see a list view of all these users, including first, last, and email address. And if you're a firm admin, you have the ability to edit the user and or delete the user. We can also add users by clicking the add user button. That'll require first, last, and email address, and then we can set up whether they're a firm admin or not. So if someone needs to be added, say you have a new attorney that gets hired on, or someone moves into your firm, whether they're going to be filing or not, they just need access. We would always come in, and rather than having them register themselves, we would come in and add that user to your firm. So that way they have access to all the same information that you do. And on the firm details page, this will just show us firm name, address, and some details about the location. There's not typically a reason you would need to come in to change this, but if an admin needed to, they could click on that edit button and change these details. Under that is the service contacts page. So this allows us to manage our own firm service contacts. So if you wanted to control or update a firm service contact's first name, last name, or email address, we can do that here. We can edit those users. We can look at the cases that they're attached on and add or remove them from those cases. We could delete the service contact and we can add a new one. So we can see the required information for this. But what this just allows us to do is set up service contacts for individuals that need to be added to specific cases so that whenever someone else files into that, they can easily serve you the details of that filing. And that would come to you in an email. And lastly, our reports page. This allows us to look up specific filings that are have been both submitted by either ourselves or by our firm. We can use locations, statuses, filed from, and dates too. And we can use the filter here to look up those locations. And then once we've filled that out, we'll click download report, and it's going to pull out the specifications that we see up here at the top into an Excel spreadsheet. And so we can look at my filings or my firm's filings. Coming back to the dashboard, the last thing I'll show everyone before we look at questions is going to be up in the top right hand corner. We have our initials. So you see mine ND. From here, we can click on profile or sign out. If I click on profile, this is where I'm going to manage my profile. So I'll see the details here about my first, last, and middle name, or excuse me, first, middle, last name, and then email address. And I can change that by clicking on the edit button. I also have the ability to update my password, manage my email notifications, which include notifications for accepted, rejected, receipted, submission failed, submitted, and service undeliverable. So if the boxes are checked for these, I will receive an email notification every time an envelope goes into this any of these statuses. Obviously, if I uncheck and save, it'll change that. And then lastly, our preferences, which are for the hotkeys, and they can be enabled or disabled. That's going to conclude the training for today. I'm going to open up for the questions and jump into the chat. We'll spend about 10 minutes kind of looking through some of the questions depending on how many we have. I'll do my best to kind of reiterate what John or Claire or Sabrina have answered, and then we'll wrap up. Reminder, we're going to pull all those questions out, put them in an Excel spreadsheet, and provide those to you guys. So don't throw up the red flag if we don't get to your question today. Let's see. Question about an explanation for firm accounts. Looks like Claire answered this, but just to reiterate for the whole group, everyone should register as a firm unless they are self-represented. So unless you're a pro se filer, you would have a firm and be registered as a firm. Question from Jess, why does this look different than the Superior Court case filing system? It does look a little bit different because it's the updated version, but it will function the exact same way. We file into cases, we search for those cases the same way. Again, just looks a little bit different. Question from Rose, do we need to manually add the judge as a service contact or is it automatic? Good question. We had that one in our previous training as well. So I want to highlight this for the group. You would have to add that service contact if it's not already on the case. The judges will be in the public list. So when we're filing a new case, we can click on that service contacts page, look for them in the public list, and then associate them with that new case. Question from Natalie, what do service contacts mean? And I'll just elaborate on that a little bit. The service contacts can be added and associated with the cases. And what happens when we add a service contact to a case and then choose to serve them is that it sends them an email notification with the documents that we submitted. So it's just a way of servicing them using the site that will be delivered to them through email. Question from Jay. Is this, if you're registered with Pacer, are you also registered with the eFile site? And the answer to that is no, that the two systems are not connected. You would need to register a different eFiling site, so a separate account. But if you are already registered, you don't need a new one with eFile. Question from Arden. how do we input the case numbers so the system is able to look it up? And you're totally correct. We want to make sure that that case number matches with what would be in the court's CMS. So adding the dashes and the numbers and the characters in the correct place are important. And to my knowledge, I believe Claire mentioned that there are some details on the court's site that elaborate a little bit on that and should provide a little bit of guidance on how to properly add those or enter those case numbers in. Question about bulk filing. Could you elaborate on bulk filing? It's just the ability to add a filing into multiple cases at once. So it just, if you had to add an affidavit for multiple cases, we can use that bulk filing feature to do it all at one time rather than searching each case and filing individually into them. And question from Robin about looking at this from a probate division perspective. And good points there, Robin. It is a little bit different for probate, but as far as the functionality of the site, it will be exactly the same. So public list would be different, like you're saying. And then looking up those cases, you would use the probate case category and then obviously the probate case numbers. Our question, are fees waived for DC agencies? And the answer is yes. And question from,
I'm sorry,
go
this
ahead.
is Sabrina.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't know if they're asking about the court fees or the Tyler fees. And so, yes, the court fees are waived. And I don't know if you have a response as to whether Tyler fees are waived for agencies and legal service providers.
Yeah, so whenever they set up the waiver account, it'll waive all the fees associated with the envelope. So when they set up, just like, and I'm still sharing my screen if those of you are looking, if we go to the payment accounts, just like you would set up a credit card account, we could set up a waiver account. And during the filing process, they would choose that. It would waive all fees associated with that envelope. And then during the reviewing process, as far as the clerks go, they would look at whether that's, okay for them to have the fees waived or not. Thanks, Sabrina. Question from Dawn. Is there an assistance line, so like a support team that looks at this as you're going through the filing process? And the answer is yes. We do have some support information. So right up here at the top, if we click on the little question mark in the drop down, we've got a support page. And if I click on this, there are two links. I can go to the articles or I can go to contact technical support. If I go to the articles, it'll show me this hi, how can I help page. And then from there, you basically search exactly what you want to look for. So how to file. It'll show us a list of results and articles that we can look at to help us. And then to contact the support team, we've got a few different options for that, but you can call or chat in and they'll help walk you through that process. Question from Jess, will returned items always have a reject reason? When you receive the email saying filing return, it hasn't been that way thus far. Requires searching into the docket's email clerks for clarification. That's a court business process, Jess. So Sabrina, if you want to chime in on that, but there are reject reasons and then there are reject comments that the court can provide. Sabrina, do y'all have that required or is that?
Yeah, yes, rejection reasons are required, and I will inquire about the inconsistency with using rejection reasons moving
Sure.
forward. So thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you. Still scrolling here. This might be a business process, Sabrina, as well, but seeing a couple questions about submitting filings under seal. Is that something that the court allows?
Yes, there is a code I'm not sure if it's a code or if it's a button that you use to submit things that are confidential, but there is a process to submit documents under seal.
Gotcha. And they would just search those cases like any other, correct?
When you say would they search, that means to file when you say search those cases, do you mean to file a subsequent pleading?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yes, yes. To file a
Gotcha.
subsequent pleading, they should be able to file um, into that sealed case with the right case number.
Gotcha.
And also, they may want to put in their comment field when they submit their e-filing that it is a sealed or confidential case.
Perfect. Question from Deborah about how can I get notifications when someone else files into the case? And the only way you would be notified, Deborah, is if they added you as a service contact or put your email address in the courtesy copies. And that's exactly why we would want to have, any cases that you're involved with, have you add yourself as a service contact on that case. And so that they can easily just look you up or see you already there and just check the box. Question from Nancy: if we add new parties for service, does that count officially as serving them, even if they hadn't previously added themselves to the case? If you add them, including their email address, it would add them as a service contact and they would be there. So it would, um, quote unquote, count as serving them because it would have added them to the case, yes. Question from Elise: is there a fee to serve a party via the website? There is no fee to use the service contacts feature, so no fee for that. And follow-up clarification on that: if you were to use like a sheriff's service, then there might be fees associated with that, but that would be per the court's process. Question from Jesse: if the opposing counsel is not available on the public service contact list, can you still serve them through filing system by listing them in the courtesy copy field? That's not going to qualify as a service, but it would still send them a copy of the filing in the document that you're submitting. You can also add them as a service contact on the case if you have their details. Question from Deborah. Are we able to view items that the plaintiff and or defendant attorney file in each other's cases and are able to print them once they are uploaded? Using this system, no. But for the court's portal system, you can look up those cases and the documents that are associated with them. And Sabrina, Claire, I can't remember off the top of my head the name of that portal system that y'all mentioned in our previous call, but I know y'all had talked about it.
Hi, it's Claire. It is just Portal.
Portal,
If you go
okay.
to our case, if you go to our case search site, it's there, and I'll put a link in the chat.
Awesome, thank you. Question from Barbara, is there a limit on the size of documents that can be e-filed? And the answer is yes, there is a limit to the size. And during the filing process, if you remember, whenever we actually upload the button, upload the document, right under the button that says upload, it'll tell you exactly the size of the document that can be uploaded. So good question. It will tell you right under that upload button. Question from Crystal. When filing an initial pleading that require exhibits to be attached, when do we attach the exhibits to the initial filing? So it might be easier to show you this, but whenever you select and upload the lead document, right under the lead document, you have the option to add attachments. So after we've uploaded our document, and I'm jumping in this also to show the previous question, here's going to be the file size right under that upload button. But once we've added the lead document, or even before, you can attach those exhibits as attachments. Question from Maggie, is there a way to mark these filings as an emergency? We have no way to mark this for temporary restraining orders. And the answer, outside of just the filing code and the document that you select, Maggie, there isn't any additional things that you can click or select to sort of mark it as a more important or emergency filing. And then question from Deborah again, if the party's not on the service contact list, what information do we need to have to add them? And we'll just go to this and look at that. So on the service contact, seems to be a lot of questions about service contact. So let's look at this again. If we need to add a new one, we would click add new contact. We can associate it with the party. You'll need first name, last name, email address, and that's really it. From there, you will want to either save this contact to your own firm list or add it to the public list. So once we do that, it will start showing up in that public list or in our firms, and then we'll click save and it'll show up associated with that party. Public list, we did look at that, it just allows us to search, and then my firm will show us a list of all the service contacts that are there. If you exceed the filing size, this is a question from Julie. If you exceed the filing size, really your options are to get that flattened or downsize it using a PDF shrinking or yeah, I think that's what it's called, a shrinking tool there for your PDFs. You could also submit them as attachments, but yeah, the only way is really the best way to do is to reduce the size of the file itself, which there are a few different things you can do for that. Question from Jennifer about notifications, and I maybe I've passed those or answered those, Jennifer, but for the notifications, as far as how those are set up, you can only control your own notifications. Notifications for opposing groups or anyone else for that matter can't be controlled using this site. The service contacts is the only way that we can notify others outside of the courtesy copies. And I have worked myself to the bottom of the list, and I realize I haven't answered every single question, so I apologize for that. Some I think are going to make a little more sense for the court to review because they're business process related. But again, we will pull all of these out and put them in a spreadsheet to have them answered. But the last question I'm seeing is, does Odyssey accept American Express? And Claire actually just answered that and says, at this time, no. We've got about 7 minutes before our time is up. Are there any other questions? I'm seeing a couple coming in, so I'll answer those. But if you have any other additional questions, feel free to go ahead and enter those now, and we'll wrap up here in a couple of minutes. Jennifer mentioned an issue about notifications not going to all the service contacts. If you have an issue with that, Jennifer, it might make sense to reach out to our support team and check on if the service contacts are either there or not, and then if they're being selected during the submission process. So it's totally possible that they either haven't been added or that the opposing party isn't selecting them when they submit the envelope. But if we reach out to our support team, that should be something that they can look at and help you out with. A question from Jay about filing against an entity rather than a party. So if we go back to the parties page, we were trying to just add this party and say it's the defendant. Right here, we can choose whether it's going to be a person or an entity, and then you can just type that entity's name in. So great question. Colleen, yes, this seminar is recorded. We also have a recording from the one earlier this week. And so we have both of those that the court can send out. Question from Nancy: do we use this for probate filings? And the answer is yes. So any type of filings, and I'll show you the list of our options. So we have civil, family, and maybe Sabrina, am I wrong? Do we have probate set up yet?
So probate only accepts subsequent filings, not new
Gotcha.
filings at
Okay.
this time. Yeah, we're working on, we're working through that to see what we can allow as new filings.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up. Yep. So we would just go through the process of filing into an existing case, and you would look at that up from a probate standpoint. Here we go. So see those there, and also criminal and domestic look to be on this list as well. This also a business process here. I think this can be the last one we look at, Sabrina, but do the exhibits need to be filed separately, or can they be filed as one document?
I'm gonna have to defer that until I can look at, that's a specific business process question, so I'm not sure if
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be a separate document or can trail. It depends.
Okay. Thanks, Lynette. We'll circle back on that one.